Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Going to his early MLB main slate for today on DraftKings. The one starts at 1 o'clock. It's a pretty ugly slate, just like the late slate from a pitching standpoint. But I think we can make our way through the slate and hopefully make do with what we got. So anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. We recently passed 1,000 subscribers, so I want to thank you guys again. That is very awesome, a really big milestone to pass for me anyway. So really appreciate that. And if you want to support me even more, I do have a Patreon, which I'll plug right now. So if you don't know this yet and you're new to the channel, because I know I got a lot of new subscribers recently, I do have a Patreon. We have over 25 members so far, and we have the UFC cheat sheet, the PGA model cheat sheet, NASCAR model, the MLB model, which has a ton of stuff on there. I also cover pretty much like 40 slates a month. So if you just think of the value you get for $10, and you get access to my projections, the pitching model, hitting model, some extra stuff I do like high priced home run call of the day, mid range, my favorite value plays, cash game pitching options, GBP pitching options, and you also get access to the Slack chat if you decide to join. So you can ask me questions throughout the day, just sit around and talk during one of the games going on or whatever. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave the link in the description below, and you can decide if you want to join or not. And I also have a $20 all sports access package, and when NFL starts up, I'm going to keep that price the same, and then I'll just have a separate NFL package, so you're going to get an even better value anyway. So just trying to give you guys as much value as I can at a pretty fair price. So if you are interested, I'll leave the link in the description below, and let's get back into the cheat sheet. So SP1, it's either going to be between Wheeler or Nola, and I'm not really too fond of either in these spots, but I would prefer going with Nola at 10,700 versus the Mets. And really, this is one of the worst pitching slates we've had in a while, and I really just kind of feel like going double mid-range. But if I was forced to spend up, I would go with Nola versus the Mets, and he's been in better form recently, but I'm not too in love with the matchup. And then Ariel Jurado at 6,700. Doesn't feel too good listing him here, but he hasn't been awful this year, and it's a fantastic matchup versus a Detroit team who sucks versus righties and just let Jesse Chavez get over like 20 points versus them. I realized I spelled "and" wrong twice in there, so maybe that's not a good sign for Jurado. But I do think he's in an interesting spot. But the problem with him is he's kind of a reverse splits guy where he's worse versus righties, which does sound like a problem, but I do think this will even out, and I think he should have a decent game. He should get over 12 points, which is really all I'm wanting here, because I think this is a slate that's won by the bats. And then my preferred option is Martin Perez at 7,900. I prefer using lefties versus the Rays, and I do think the Twins get him the win, and I don't love this spot, but there's really nowhere else to go in my opinion, so I don't mind going with Perez, and he's probably going to be pretty popular. He hasn't been as good as he was earlier in the season. Teams are probably figuring out his new pitch sequence, but I think it's a decent spot. Although he didn't do very good versus the Rays first time out, I will say that. And then a catcher, we have Grandal at 4,700. Like him best when he's facing a righty, and here we have it. It's an expensive stack, but I do think we can make do, especially if we go with the mid-range pitchers. And then Brian McCann, 3,900. The way to attack Chatwood is with the lefties, and McCann is pretty solid versus righties. And then Travis d'Arnaud at 3,200. I know I have interest in Perez, but I don't think he's going to just destroy this whole lineup, so I do have interest in d'Arnaud, especially facing a lefty in Perez. Then at first base, we have CJ Cron at 4,400. He's mashing lefties this season. He's got over 300 ISO versus them, and he's pretty affordable, and I do like this twin stack today. Beeks will come in after Stanek, so if you're looking and you see Stanek starting, he's just the opener, and they're going to bring in Beeks. Beeks is not a terrible pitcher, but he can get hit by righties. And then Eric Thames at 4,300. You're going to see a common theme here with the Brewers being listed, so just get used to it here. Freddie Freeman at 5,400. Not much to say besides him being an elite lefty versus Chatwood. Chatwood walks a lot of guys, so we should see some traffic on the base paths, which is good for stacks. I'm not really too interested in stacking the Braves, but definitely not against it. And then second base, Mike Moustakas at 4,800. He's having a fantastic year with a quiet 22 homers, and just love all the lefties here versus Leak in this park. And then Jose Altuve, 3,900. Not in love with the matchup versus Musgrove, but he's still just too cheap, and Musgrove hasn't been sharp this year. Then Rugi Odor at 3,400. I do think the Rangers will be a sneakier stack today. I think they kind of go overlooked with the Brewers on the slate and the Twins, so it's kind of like the third wheel there. But I do think they're in a pretty good spot, and the way to attack Turnbull is with lefties, which may make the Rangers, I already said that. Then third base, we have Mike Moustakas. Already talked about him. Miguel Sano at 4,300. This is just a GPP guy. I don't like playing him cash because he does own a 40% K rate, but it's a small sample size. This year, he has a 400 ISO versus lefties. So I do think he's interesting if you're stacking up the Twins. And then Travis Shaw, 2,700. This is really where I want to go at third base. I can pretty much see him being chalk as long as he's in the lineup. And it's just a good way to get cheap exposure to the Brew Crew. And then shortstop Alex Bregman at 5K. This is a weak spot, a weak position today. There really wasn't anyone I liked, so I just listed Bregman because he's probably pretty much the best play from a raw projection standpoint, not dollar per dollar. So I don't mind going at Bregman if you feel the need to spend up for shortstop. But don't mind J.P. Crawford either at 4,300. I could see him being popular, and he's swinging a hot bat right now, and he's going to be in a great ballpark for hitting. So don't mind JP. And that's really all I found. If there's another option, I'll try to put it in the updates tomorrow. And then in the high-priced outfield, Christian Yelich at 5,800. I wish he was 3,800. He's the number one player in the slate, and it really isn't that close to me. League allows a lot of hard contact to righties and lefties. And he also gives up a lot of homers and power to lefties. And well, good luck versus Yelich is all I really have to say. And then Yordan Alvarez at 5,100. Really like the few lefties in this lineup versus Musgrove, who's really stuck with them this year. And Alvarez and Brantley are probably my two favorite plays from the Astros. And then Joey Gallo, 5,200. He's got massive power versus righties. And he's facing someone who struggles with lefties. So he makes a lot of sense if you're stacking up the Rangers. And then mid-range outfield, Nelson. I really like this mid-range outfield. A lot of great spots here. So Nelson Cruz at 5,400. Cruz versus lefties has always been a thing, and getting him at 4,500 is a great value in my opinion. And always he might go a little bit overlooked because casuals that don't really go into too deep of research, they might see he's just facing a righty and Stanek, but not realizing Beek's coming in. So I do like Cruz a lot. And then Michael Brantley, 4,400. You all know he's one of my favorite DFS plays. Pretty much every time he's facing a righty. Because of his spot in the order, he gets in the heart of the order of this Astros offense, which is insanely good, and not to mention his elite contact rate, so we always put in the ball in play. Then Shin-Soo Choo, 4,500. He's getting a nice price decrease. He's usually around 5K, and really just the same reasons I like the other Rangers lefties, and I also like Nomar Mazara as well. Then in the value outfield, Nick Castellanos, 3,900. He's really the only one on the Tigers I'd have any interest in. Pardo's giving up more power to righties, and Castellanos, he does have some pop in his bat, so don't mind him. Then Markakis, 3,700. While I was typing Markakis down, he hit I think a 3-run homer versus Darvish, so maybe that's a good sign. But he's a cheap lefty versus Chatwood. And then Schwarber, 3,600. Wilson was solid in the minors, and he doesn't have a big enough sample size for me to look too into his 8 ERA so far in the majors. So I don't mind Schwarber leading off versus him, but I guess it's probably not the best matchup, but the price is nice. And then for the core plays, I have Perez at 7,900, Shaw at 2,700, Yelich at 5,800. I really want to spend up for Yelich. I would be really surprised if he doesn't homer tomorrow. And then Nelson Cruz at 4,500. Impactful weather, I just try to retweet as much stuff as I can on the weather. And then the top stacks for me are going to be the Brewers, the Twins, and the Rangers. And for those of you who have Patreon access to this cheat sheet model, I will fill out the blank stuff you see there. Alright guys, anyway, that's all I have for the video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate that. And I wish you guys the best of luck tomorrow.